So today we have Pazzi Lazzi joining us. They are a modern Commedia dell'Arte troupe. We have Chiara Durazzini. She is the artistic director of Pazzi Lazzi. We have Emanuele Capuano as well, and he is in one of the performers. And then we have Daniele Myers, and he will also be performing actually music and showing you some instruments. So we're going to move forward, and I'm going to turn it over to Chiara to tell you more about Commedia dell'Arte.
Ciao bambini, hello kids. I am Chiara Durazzini and I'm very happy to be with you today and teaching a little bit about Commedia dell'Arte. So what is Commedia dell'Arte? Commedia dell'Arte is a particular kind of theater that originated in Italy about 500 years ago. And it started as a street theater to entertain the passers-by in Italian streets and squares. Later, it became very, very famous and big. And so Commedia dell'Arte theater companies were invited in royal courts to perform for kings and queens all over Europe. So France, Spain, England, Poland, Russia, and Germany, and so on. A couple of characteristics about Commedia dell'Arte are, number one, the improvisation, and number two, the stock characters, or as we say in Italian, personaggi fissi. These characters are archetypes, meaning that they sum up the qualities and flaws of all human beings. Each region of Italy, each area has its own character. And even today, Commedia dell'Arte characters are part of Italian culture and tradition, at the point that kids love to dress up like these characters, like Arlecchino, Colombina, Pulcinella, and so on, for Carnevale. That is a festivity that we celebrate usually in February, and when people like to dress up, like for you in the US could be Halloween. But now, what is a stock character, a personaggio fisso? It means that during Commedia dell'Arte shows, the plot, the story would change, but the characters would remain the same, wearing the same costume, the same mask. Why? Because this way they could be quickly recognized by the audience who were watching them from far away. And in fact, since the Commedia dell'Arte characters were seen from far away, that's why they have very big, exaggerated gestures and movements. In fact, I like to think that actors, when they play these characters, not only they wear masks on their faces, but their bodies also become masks. Now, let's see an example. We will present 5 characters to explain to you and give you an example of what they look like. These are more or less the most famous characters of Commedia dell'Arte. Now, children, why don't you get up and perhaps try to copy me and move around a little bit. Let's see what happens.
Pantalone. Pantalone is the master of his servant Arlecchino. He's a very rich merchant from Venice, northern Italy. He's so rich that he's also stingy and very greedy. He wears a red costume, a black cape, and this is his leather mask. Now, he's so old that he's not 85, he's 374, let's say. So, all these years, way way over his shoulders. So he's very, very low, close to the floor. His hands are always counting money, and in fact, he has a little purse full of soldi, money, and sometimes the hands go in the back like this. Now let's take a look at his feet. His feet are open like this, his legs are bent, and he walks like this with little kicks. And now, this is Pantalone. Ah, ciao bambini!
So the music and the instruments used in Commedia dell'Arte were important for three reasons. First, they helped get people's attention out in the street, just the same way the masks did when it wasn't always easy to attract an audience. Second, they helped tell the audience, even if they walked in the middle of the scene, something about the characters and about what was going on. Just like when you're watching a movie, the soundtrack, the music that's going on in the background, can make you think you should be happy or sad or scared or whatever. And third, because in the Renaissance, certain types of instruments were associated with certain types of people, rich or poor, upper class or lower class, nice or not so nice. For Pantalone, I'll play the Renaissance flute. And some of you may have played the flute before, either in band or taking it from a teacher. And I bet it didn't look like this. So this is the Renaissance flute, and you can see that it's made of wood, and it has no keys, just 6 finger holes, and then a 7th one that you blow into. And the flute in the Renaissance was associated with wealthier upper class people because it had a very pretty sound and because it wasn't that loud, so you could play it indoors, and it was popular for amateur musicians to play indoors. It was also associated with young or attractive people because you don't have to make funny faces or do weird things with your face in order to play the flute the way you do to, say, play the bagpipes or an instrument like that. Now, Pantalone isn't actually young or attractive, but he thinks he is. And he also likes to dance, because in the Renaissance, dancing was very important for people who were rich or upper class as a way to meet people. So I'm going to play a dance that was very popular in the Renaissance called a gagliarda, or a cinque passo, and the name of the dance is La traditora mi fa morire, which means because of the traitor I die. Now, traitor in this case means someone who cheats on their boyfriend or girlfriend, and it's appropriate for Pantalone because in many commedia plots, Pantalone is married to a much younger woman who's actually cheating on him with a younger, more handsome guy. So this is the Gagliarda, La traditora mi fa morire.
Arlecchino. Arlecchino is the most famous character of Commedia dell'Arte. And who is Arlecchino? Arlecchino is a very poor guy. He's a servant, the servant of Pantalone very often, and he's always hungry. He has a beautiful, colorful costume that is made of patches because he's very poor. He also has this black mask that resembles a cat a little bit, and a stick, a baton, like this, that he often wears in his belt. Now, Arlecchino has very interesting movements. Let's see what they look like. First of all, Arlecchino has his chest out. You know why? Because he's often in love with Colombina. And his hips, his behind, sticks out like this. You know why? Because he's ready to run away from his master Pantalone, who wants to make him work all day. Ah, no. Arlecchino is very lazy. So, to show laziness, his hands are often on his waist, like this, and pay attention to his feet, because even his feet demonstrate his laziness, because the foot is like a brake. Do you want to work, Arlecchino? No! Brake, right? Now, Arlecchino also is the most agile character in Commedia dell'Arte. So during Commedia shows, Arlecchino does a lot of acrobatics. Like this, you see? And sometimes even he sleeps like this. Also, he was a very good dancer. And in order to demonstrate the dancing part, he would have a double step. Take a look at the step. So he goes 1 and 2, and then he switches 1 and 2. Switch 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, and to turn is this, right? Now his hands, as I said, they are often on his waist, but sometimes he must cover himself from the beatings of his master. So he can go like this, boom, 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 boom. And this is Arlecchino.
Now, unlike Pantalone, Arlecchino is a real dancer. And you can see, as you'll see in a moment when you see how he moves, that he walks most of the time almost like he's dancing. But the kind of dancing he likes to do isn't the kind that rich people do in their houses like what Pantalone does. It's the type of music that ordinary people do out in the street. And in the 1500s in Italy, no type of dance music was as popular as Spanish music. And so I'm going to play a Spanish tune called a canario, which comes from the Canary Islands, which are part of Spain. And I'm going to play it on these two instruments, which were actually considered to be one instrument, really. And it's called a pipe and tabor, or in Italian, piffero di tre fori e tamburo. So the piffero, or pipe, is almost like a recorder. You just blow into it like this, and it makes a sound. But it's only got 3 holes, 2 on the front for your fingers, and 1 on the back for your thumb. And the nice thing about this means that you can play it with just one hand, and so it leaves your other hand free to play a drum, like that. So when you play the two together, you can have both melody and rhythm going at the same time, which is exactly what you want for dancing. So here for Arlecchino is the canario on pipe and tabor.
Very good, very good. I hope you enjoyed Arlecchino.
I just want to interact real quick. And Emanuele is going to talk next, but I just want to share a map again of Italy while Emanuele is talking.
Yes.
So go on, Emanuele.
Because Arlecchino was from Bergamo and from the north of Italy. Where is Bergamo? Oh, in Lombardia, right?
Lombardia.
Yes, Lombardia. And now we are going to the south in Campania, the region of Campania, and the city is Naples, not Naples, Florida, but Napoli. But Chiara is going to present a wonderful character called Pulcinella, and Pulcinella is from Naples, from Napoli.
Pulcinella. Pulcinella is another servant like Arlecchino, but he's from the south of Italy, not the north. He's also very poor, always hungry, and often in love with his wife or girlfriend, Zezza. Pulcinella is always hungry, so his belly sticks out, always ready to be filled. Also, he has a hunch like this. His shapes, his posture is very round. So round arms and round legs. The hands are very soft. They are often making spaghetti like this or pizza dough and pizza. He wears a white costume, very large, very big, and this is his mask. Now, Pulcinella is also a poet and a philosopher. He likes to talk about the sun and the moon and the sea. Pulcinella!
So Pulcinella is from Naples in the south of Italy, and Southern Italian music is famous for its tambourines. So this is the big Southern Italian tambourine, or one type of it. It's called a tamburello, and it's played all over Southern Italy for folk music. And it most likely came to Southern Italy from North Africa, probably during the Middle Ages. And in Napoli, Naples, where Pulcinella is from, they have a particular type of dance called a tamuriata that's very popular. And the beat is sort of like this. And Pulcinella is a working class guy, and he likes his wine, he likes his pizza, and of course, being a good Napoletano, he likes his tamuriata.
I think there is a female character, Chiara.
Yes.
Yes. There is a Colombina. Many of you might know Colombina. And Colombina is from Venice, but we can see different Colombinas, different female characters all around Italy.
Colombina. Colombina is a female servant. Now you must know that Commedia dell'Arte is the first theater where women were allowed to perform on stage. And Colombina is one of the characters that they would interpret. Colombina, as I said, is a servant, so she's lower class, but she's always fun and happy and lively and very gossipy. Now, Colombina is from northern Italy, usually from Venice, but other kind of Colombinas with different names can be found down in southern Italy. For example, we can find Zezza, that is the wife of Pulcinella. Now let's see briefly how Colombina moves. Hands on her hips, the hips go side to side, and she's very bouncy. She uses a double step that is often in place. She often has a tamburello with which she plays and dances. And again, if she is a female servant or a female character from the south, she will dance a tarantella.
So Colombina, like Arlecchino, loves to dance. And like Arlecchino and Pulcinella, she's a lower class character. She's a servant. So the instrument I'll be playing for her is the recorder, which is one of those basso indoor instruments, often played for dancing. But it was more often played by lower class professional musicians rather than by upper class amateurs, sort of like the pipe and tabor. And this probably doesn't look quite like the recorders you might be familiar with from school. Of course, in the Renaissance, they didn't have plastic, so the recorders were all made from wood, or maybe if you were very lucky, you might have one made from ivory, but those were very expensive. This is an alto recorder, so it's probably a little bit bigger than the ones that you're used to seeing from school. And in the Renaissance, most instruments came in families of different sizes that were meant to be played together. So today I actually have with me the soprano, which is the highest. And then the alto. And then the tenor. And finally, the bass recorder. And these instruments would be played together in families, just like you'd have groups of voices, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And the piece that I'm going to play for Colombina is a popular southern Italian folk dance called a tarantella. And if you think that sounds a little bit like tarantula, you're right. It's named after a little spider that you find all over Italy. And the legend has it that if you're bitten by this spider, it'll make you very sick and probably very sad. And the only way to be happy again and to be well is to dance to very up-tempo, happy music until you sweat out all the poison from the spider, and then you'll be cured. And now we'll see Colombina dance the tarantella.
Bravi, bravi. So we need to mention to all kids, to participants, that you can dance with the Arlecchino steps at home, or with Pulcinella steps, or with Colombina steps, right, Chiara? Yeah, they can imitate the dancing at home.
And we have one more.
Yes, the music is always so much fun that you definitely should dance, especially a tarantella. But also the next one, I think. Dan, would you introduce the next character?
Of course, the next one is actually pretty easy. All you have to do is strut around like you're marching, like a soldier. And this is Capitano. He's another one of the more famous Commedia characters, and he's from all the way in the south, from Calabria. Little celebration here from me and Emanuele. Emanuele is from Calabria. My grandfather is from Calabria. So, you know, evviva Calabresi. At any rate, Capitano is a very interesting character, and he's very funny. He thinks he's a very brave soldier, but in fact, he's actually afraid of everything. And he's got some very interesting movements, which Chiara will show you.
Capitano. Capitano is a military man, a soldier, a captain. He likes to talk about all the battles that he's won all over the world. Oh, and he's won so many battles. Well, or at least he says so. In reality, he's a coward underneath it all. So he pretends to be a very courageous, brave soldier. So, open chest, and his posture is very stiff. His legs are always straight, and he loves to show off his boots. He also has a long sword and a big hat, and this is one kind of his masks. Let's see how he walks. Goes up with one leg and then goes with the other and moves the feather on his hat. And then he turns around, ooh, it's time for battle. So open the legs, go down, and look around. Oh, but what's there? Ah, a mouse! Yes, Capitano pretends to be brave.
So, because Capitano thinks he's such a brave soldier, even though we know he's really not, of course we need to have some military music for him. Now, in the Renaissance, instruments were mainly divided into two categories: alta, which meant high, and basso, which meant low. And this had nothing to do with whether the notes they played were high or low. The alta instruments were loud instruments, and you'd most often find them outside. And the basso instruments were the quieter instruments that were better for playing indoors. Now, one of the most popular alta, loud ensembles was made up of this instrument, the shawm, and the sackbut, which is the sort of funny name that we give to the Renaissance trombone. Now, the shawm, which in Italian was called piffero or ciaramella, is the ancestor of the modern oboe. And unlike an oboe, some of you may have played the oboe before or at least seen one, you can see it doesn't have any keys. But like an oboe, it does have this, which is the reed. And that's what makes the sound. And in this case, it's a much sort of louder, fiercer sound than a modern oboe. And by itself, the reed doesn't sound like much. And it's made out of a kind of cane, almost like bamboo. It's just two pieces stuck together. And by itself, it just makes sort of a funny squeaky sound. But when you put it on the instrument like that, all of a sudden, it becomes loud and imposing. So, in honor of Capitano, we're going to play a Renaissance tune called La Guerra, which just means the war.
Bello, bello, bravi. So I read a comment about if we make our own masks and costumes. Sometimes the costume we make ourselves, sometimes we ask them to some people in Venice, like
Yes,
Chiara?
yes, we have a very good mask maker in Venice. And she makes all the masks that you see here today. The costumes are mostly made by a tailor in Padova, so still northern Italy. She's a very, very good tailor, and she's also an actress, so she knows what she's making.
And Marielle asked, she said that the Colombina steps remind her Irish dancing.
We should ask Dan about this,
Yeah,
because he's also an Irish performer, an Irish musician. So Dan, I'm curious too, I have to say. Do you see similarities in the steps?
Yes, there are some similarities and some differences. I mean, I play for Irish music too, and of course, a tarantella is not terribly different from a jig. For those of you who know music, they're both in 6/8 time. And the steps for an Irish jig are similar. The main difference would be between traditional Irish dancing and traditional Italian dancing is you notice that when you dance the tarantella, as Chiara did there, you use your arms. You involve your arms, whether that's playing a tambourine or playing the nacchere, the castanets, or simply making big gestures with your arms. The arms are much more important, whereas in traditional Irish dancing, you do almost nothing with your arms. Your arms stay down by your sides, and the majority of the movement is just with your feet. The focus is on the feet. So it's similar, but also different, and both of them probably came from the same source, which is Renaissance dancing. They both of those styles of dancing probably came out of the 16th century.
Plus, I would like to add that usually tarantella is danced with somebody else, is in couple. Colombina, sometimes she dances by herself, but sometimes the arms, you see the arms up and moving, but sometimes they're arm to arm with maybe Pulcinella.
Mhm.
Then someone asked if it's too hard to play these old instruments.
Oh, it's very hard. That's why I don't do it better. No, actually, it's interesting. They're no more difficult, I would say, than modern instruments. We've made a lot of changes to instruments over the centuries, mostly, you know, adding keys, making them louder, that sort of thing. But music is music, and learning to play an instrument well just takes practice. The main difference, I would say, is that in the Renaissance, if you were a professional musician, you would be expected to not just specialize in one instrument the way that people do today, but to be able to play a number of different instruments. This is where we get the term Renaissance man or Renaissance woman from, for somebody who is very good at a lot of different things. Because in the Renaissance, the focus was not on being an expert at one thing, although there were exceptions, and Chiara or Emanuele can tell you that most Commedia actors spent their entire careers portraying one character. So that was a little bit of an exception. But certainly as a musician, especially if you played for theater, you would be expected to play multiple instruments, not just one.
Now, guys, shall we see a final scene, a final sketch? Then, do you want to present it? and then I think if we have time, we can take more questions.
Yep. And this is a little improvised sketch that is going to be between Pulcinella and Arlecchino. And you'll see an interesting bit in it with a fly. I won't spoil too much of it later, but this is what's called a lazzo, and this is where our name comes from, pazzi lazzi. Lazzo can just mean like a trick or a device. And most of Commedia, as Chiara said, was improvised. You would have a general scenario, and then as you'll see, Chiara and Emanuele are going to improvise the scene. They know generally what's going to happen, but they didn't plan on any lines or anything beforehand. They just go with the flow and they make up things as they go along just so it fits the plot. But these lazzi were sort of stock devices, almost like standard jokes that you could work into different routines, different scenarios. And the fly was, or la mosca in Italian, was a standard lazzo. So you'll see that. And I have to warn you, after you watch this, you might be a little bit hungry. So I'm feeling like it's time for lunch myself, but we're not quite there yet. Anyway, so this is Arlecchino and Pulcinella in Dreaming of Pizza.
Arlecchino, I'm so hungry. Oh, tanta fame, fame, fame.
I'm so hungry too. Too much.
I'm so empty. E vuota.
Mine is empty too. I haven't eaten for 5 days.
I haven't eaten for 7 days.
And I haven't eaten for 10 days.
And 20 days.
23.
24.
29.
34.
80 bientôt, mon cher, pas de soupe de velours.
Oh, mon chéri, no comida for 55.
No comida para mí. 56, 57, 58.
Tombola, bingo. 66, 66. Sisters.
1, 2, 3, paper.
Stone.
Let's rock.
Paper.
Scissors.
Scissors.
Rock.
Rock.
Paper.
Paper.
Scissors.
Rock.
Paper.
Paper.
Rock.
Rock. Scissors.
Paper.
Rock. Pepper.
Scissors.
Flour, mozzarella, flour, mozzarella, pizza dough, pizza. Did I say pizza?
Pizza. Where? Dove, pizza. I need you. Where are you? Dove sei? Pizza.
I'm so hungry. Oh, I wish I could eat a delicious pizza. When I was young, I was the most famous pizza maker, the pizzaiuolo in Naples. That means in the whole world.
When I was a baby Pulcinella, my grandma, Nonna Arlecchinetta, would take me to the garden and pick some fresh basil to put on top of our homemade pizza. Delicious, and we would put a lot of more stuff. Fumarolangoppo, mozzarella cheese, pepperoni. I love this fresh basil. Mangia. Pizza with extra cheese.
I dream about pizza every night.
Me too.
Pizza. Ouch, Arlecchino. Ah.
Hello. Bella. Grassa. Look.
Oh. Mm.
I have it, finally. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and some Parmesan cheese. And then what else could we put in, my friends? Huh?
Mozzarella.
Mozzarella, pepperoni, and the fresh basil from my nonna Arlecchinetta. And 2, and 3, and 1, 2, 3. Deliziosa!
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Mozzarella, con tomato, che buono origano, buono.
Pulcinella, where are you going, my friend? You're my best friend, and we have to share. We must share. Remember? Give it to me, Pulcinella. Come, let's here. Come.
Wow, bravissimi. Great job, everybody. Does anyone have any more questions before we move into story time for Pattilazzi? I saw some questions before about instruments. Did we answer all the questions about instruments? Dan?
There was just the one that I saw, but maybe there was more.
Yeah, I think
someone did ask about the dances, about who choreographed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you guys want to answer that question.
About choreographing the dances, I can say something. So these that you have seen are stylized and codified movements of the characters that historians took from paintings of those times. So it's not that one morning I and Emanuele and then woke up and made up these movements. No, they are based on the iconography, meaning the drawings and the paintings of people from those times that would see a Commedia dell'Arte show. So historians and actors recreated the sequence and the steps and the postures from those paintings. The more dense spots and little things that you saw, they're basically a typical dance. For example, the tarantella, those are actual steps of tarantella, except for the fact that Colombina is dancing by herself and not with another person. That usually happens. That's it. I think.
Yes, someone asked what kind of tarantella we danced, especially Colombina. I think it was
Tarantella Napoletana.
Sì.
So yeah, Tarantella Napoletana. And there are many varieties all over southern Italy. Matter of fact, in Puglia, they often call it pizzica, which means pinch, which refers to the bite of that spider again. There's a lot of different types of tarantella, and that particular one was the Tarantella Napoletana, so the type of tarantella that's native to Naples and the area around that.
Yeah. And even the pizza comes from Naples. Yeah, from Napoli. So someone asked where the pizza comes from Napoli.
If you ask someone who is from Napoli, they will say that the Napoletani invented pizza, that's where pizza was invented. I think maybe that goes a little too far, but they're certainly very proud of their pizza.
Yeah, of course, and it's delicious. You know, I think that is my opinion, but I think as a dough, as a base and toppings on that, I think it's all over the world, and who knows who started it, you know. But of course, the pizza from Napoli, I think it's the best.
Me too. Absolutely.
Yes.
My favorite is the margarita pizza. And now I'm so hungry for pizza. I have to order another pizza.
With extra flies.
With extra flies. Hold the pineapple.
Yuck.
Well, if anyone else has any questions, we do need to move on to story time. We have a very special story time today, but we are going to wrap up. I just want to... Oh, did you guys let Caroline know what type of tarantella was performed already? You did? We're all
Yeah.
Yes, then.
Most of the questions. Yeah, so I just want to thank Pazzi Lazzi, formally from the library, from the bottom of our cuori, our hearts, just for joining us today and sharing with youth in Boston and beyond about Italy and Commedia dell'Arte. You know, Chiara, do you want to tell our audience how to, or Dan or Emanuele, how to learn more and to follow Pazzi Lazzi for future performances and information?
Okay, before I do that, I want to reply to Logan, who's asking who is our favorite character.
I have it.
I would say that all of us love every character because each of them have such funny characteristics, personality traits. I mean, they're all amazing. I am specialized in Arlecchino and his counterpart that is Colombina. They're very similar, although one is a male and one is a female. Emanuele here is specialized in Pulcinella, and also Giangurgolo, who is a Calabrian sort of a Capitano, yeah. So that's all. As for Pazzi Lazzi, you guys can find us online. We have a website, www.pazzilazzitroop.com. If you Google it, definitely will come up. And also we have a big Facebook page. And these days we are actually doing free live events on Facebook where we converse with various experts of Commedia dell'Arte around the world. That's it. Ciao. Grazie, thank you so much, everybody. Grazie, Marie, and grazie to the library.
Grazie, thank you.
Thank you so much, and I hope that some of you, or all of you, actually stick around. We have an amazing story time with Bianca Ranzoni next, so stay tuned.